The cameras were rolling, the lights were blinding, and the tension in the room was so thick you could almost slice it with a knife. What started off as a seemingly harmless sit-down interview between Rasheeda and Jasmine quickly spiraled into one of the most shocking live moments in love and hip-hop history. Fans tuned in expecting drama, but no one was ready for the firestorm that erupted when Rasheeda, calm, collected, and smiling just moments before, suddenly snapped and called Jasmine a fake bitch right there on live air. Gasps filled the studio. The host froze. Even Jasmine's jaw literally dropped as the words echoed through the speakers and shot across social media timelines like wildfire. Within seconds, Twitter was in meltdown mode. Instagram was flooded with clips, and fans across the world were left screaming at their screens. Did Rasheeda really just say that? It wasn't just a slip of the tongue. This was years of bottled-up resentment, betrayal, and unspoken words exploding in real time. And the look on Jasmine's face, priceless. Her eyes widened, her breath caught, and it was as if the floor beneath her disappeared. She had come to the interview prepared with her usual charm. Her subtle digs, maybe even a few revelations about Kirk, but she never imagined Rasheeda would unleash on her so ruthlessly and so publicly. The tension skyrocketed. The room felt like it was on fire, and the energy became so electric that even the crew behind the cameras were frozen in disbelief. Fans who thought they'd seen every kind of reality TV fight before had to admit, this wasn't just about petty shade or another cheating scandal. This was personal. This was raw. And when Rasheeda leaned forward, eyes blazing, delivering her words with the sting of 1,000 knives, you could almost feel the air being sucked out of the room. The family was left divided. The castmates couldn't believe what they'd just witnessed, and the fans. They were living for every second of the chaos. This was the moment that would be replayed, dissected, and debated for weeks to come because, when Rasheeda went off, she didn't just make headlines, she made history. The moment Rasheeda's words cut through the studio like a sharp blade, the atmosphere shifted into something almost uncontainable. The audience, the crew, even the host, everyone knew they were witnessing something that would become legendary in reality TV lore. Jasmine sat stiff, her painted-on confidence melting away as the insult landed, and the cameras caught every flicker of emotion flashing across her face. For years, fans had speculated about how Rasheeda really felt toward Jasmine, whether her calm public front was real or just a mask. And in that split second, the mask was ripped clean off. Rasheeda wasn't just angry. She was furious, betrayed, and tired of playing the role of the forgiving wife, while the same woman who had been tied to her husband continued to chase the spotlight. The words weren't rehearsed. They weren't controlled. They were the kind of words that only fly out when years of bottled-up emotion reach a boiling point. "You fake bitch," she spat, and the weight of it shook everyone to their core. The host fumbled for control, trying to ease the tension with an awkward chuckle, but there was no turning back. The truth had slipped out, and the damage was already done. Jasmine blinked, her lips parting as if to respond, but nothing came out at first. She looked cornered, like a deer caught in headlights, unsure whether to defend herself or play the victim. Finally, she snapped back, her voice trembling, yet sharp. "Excuse me, did you just call me fake? Rasheeda, please. You've been living in denial for years, acting like your marriage is picture perfect when everybody knows it's not." The audience gasped again. The live chat exploded with emojis, and the tension tightened like a noose around everyone in the room. Rasheeda leaned back in her chair, arms crossed, eyes never leaving Jasmine's. "At least I don't build my entire storyline off of sleeping with other people's husbands," she shot back, her tone dripping with venom. The drama was escalating faster than anyone could contain it, and the cameras weren't about to cut. If anything, the producers were silently celebrating. They had struck gold. What made the moment even more powerful was the raw emotion spilling into every word. This wasn't to castmates play-fighting for ratings. This was to women with a history drenched in betrayal and resentment finally letting their true feelings come out. Rasheeda's voice cracked slightly, not from weakness, but from the pain of revisiting old wounds that never fully healed. She was tired of Jasmine being portrayed as the misunderstood side chick while she was left to carry the humiliation. The audience could see the weight in her eyes, the exhaustion of a woman who had stood by her man through endless scandals only to be mocked by the very woman sitting across from her. And Jasmine, instead of backing down, decided to double down, raising her chin with defiance. "Fake," she repeated with a bitter laugh. "You're the one fake. Acting like you forgive Kirk, acting like you're above all this, but then you come at me You're mad because I tell the truth, and people actually believe me." The crowd of live viewers on social media was split down the middle. Half were cheering for Rasheeda, finally seeing her snap after years of calm endurance, while the other half accused her of being bitter and insecure. Twitter threads filled with phrases like, "Rasheeda dragged her," and "Jasmine ate that response." The debate was fierce, and the drama only fueled the flames as the two women went back and forth in real time. Kirk's name inevitably came up, his presence looming like a ghost in the room even though he wasn't there physically. Jasmine made sure to bring him into the conversation. "If Kirk was so happy at home," she said, her voice dripping with mock sweetness, "then why did he keep coming back to me? Answer that." Rasheeda's eyes narrowed, her lips pressing into a thin line as she struggled to hold back from exploding again. The pain in her face was undeniable, but so was the strength. "Because he's weak," she fired back. "And you fed off that weakness. Don't sit here acting like you were the victim. You knew exactly what you were doing. You chased him, you trapped him, and now you want to pretend like you had no choice. Please." The host, clearly panicking, tried to step in and steer the conversation back to safer ground, but the floodgates were wide open. Neither woman was letting go, and every word felt like another stone being thrown in an already broken glass house. Rasheeda's voice trembled with righteous anger as she continued. "You built your whole identity on being the woman who tried to destroy my marriage. You smile for the cameras, but off-air you're nothing but desperate for attention. That's what makes you fake." Jasmine, never one to stay quiet, clapped back instantly. "And what does that make you? A fool? Because no matter what, Kirk keeps embarrassing you, and you keep taking him back. So don't call me desperate when you're the one who can't walk away." The tension in the room was unbearable. The crew behind the scenes exchanged nervous glances, unsure if they should cut to commercial or let the storm play out. But the truth was, this was the kind of content producers dream of. Raw, unfiltered, and impossible to script. Rasheeda's hands shook slightly as she tried to steady her breathing, but the fire in her eyes never wavered. For the first time, fans saw a version of her that wasn't polished, wasn't controlled, it was pure, unfiltered rage mixed with years of pain. And Jasmine, though clearly shaken, refused to give Rasheeda the satisfaction of seeing her crumble. She straightened in her seat, her voice steadier now. "Say whatever you want about me, but at least I live in my truth. At least I don't hide behind this fake little image of being the perfect wife. Everybody knows your house isn't as perfect as you make it seem." Gasps rippled again as the words landed. Rasheeda's expression shifted, for a moment revealing the raw vulnerability behind her tough exterior. This wasn't just a fight about insults, it was a fight about identity. About image, about years of wounds that never healed. The fans watching at home were glued to their screens, replaying clips, dissecting every gesture, every facial expression, every sharp word exchanged. And just when it seemed like things couldn't get more explosive, Rasheeda leaned forward, her voice low but deadly serious. "You're right," she admitted, stunning everyone. "My house isn't perfect, but at least I'm not proud of tearing someone else's down. That's the difference between you and me." The silence that followed was deafening, the weight of her words hanging in the air like smoke after a fire. Jasmine's lips quivered, her bravado faltering for the first time as the reality of Rasheeda's statement settled in. And in that pause, fans knew they hadn't even seen the peak of the storm yet. The clash had only just begun, and the fallout would be messier than anyone could predict. The silence that filled the People studio after Rasheeda's last words wasn't the peaceful kind, was the dangerous kind. The kind that comes right before a storm shatters everything in its path. Jasmine shifted in her chair, her nails tapping against the armrest as if the sound would help her regain composure. But her eyes gave her away. They flickered with both rage and desperation, a woman determined not to lose ground in front of a live audience. She forced a laugh, one that was sharp and cutting, meant to pierce the heavy air. "Oh, please, Rasheeda. You think you're some saint for sticking by a man who publicly humiliated you over and over again. You want applause for suffering. Girl, that's not strength. That's stupidity. Don't come for me when you're the one who can't even stand up for yourself in your own marriage." The sting of her words hit the room hard. The host's face turned pale as he glanced off camera at the producers, silently pleading for direction. But the producers, they were leaning in, eyes wide, knowing that this was the kind of chaos that would make headlines for weeks. The chat box on the live stream scrolled so fast it was unreadable. Fans taking sides in real time, some calling Jasmine brave, others tearing her apart for disrespecting Rasheeda. On such a public stage, Rasheeda's jaw clenched so tightly you could see the muscles flex. She sat forward, her voice low, steady, but filled with venom. "You want to call me stupid? You want to play this game? Let's play. Because if we're talking about stupidity, Jasmine, let's talk about how you let yourself be the side piece. You brag about it, like it's some badge of honor. But let me tell you something, being a side chick doesn't make you powerful. It makes you pathetic. You were so desperate for scraps of affection from a married man that you sold your dignity for it, and now you want to sit here and act like you're better than me." The audience gasped again, the crew bracing for what would come next. Jasmine's eyes darkened, her voice dropping to a whisper so chilling it sent shivers through anyone watching. "At least I didn't live a lie. At least I didn't wake up every morning pretending like everything was fine while my husband was out making me a joke. You think you're better than me, Rasheeda, but deep down, you hate yourself for staying. You hate that I remind you of the truth you keep trying to bury." The words cut deep, and for the first time, a flash of raw pain crossed Rasheeda's face. It was subtle, just a flicker, but it was enough to ignite another firestorm online. Fans instantly began screen-grabbing the moment, captioning it with, "The truth hit her." And Jasmine finally broke Rasheeda down, but others pushed back just as fiercely, defending Rasheeda's loyalty and blasting Jasmine for crossing the line. The online war mirrored the battle unfolding on stage, both sides equally relentless. Rasheeda drew in a deep breath, her voice trembling, not from fear but from the sheer force of everything she had held in for years. "You don't know what it's like to fight for your family. You don't know what it's like to raise children, to build a life, to protect it even when it feels like it's falling apart. You only know how to destroy. That's who you are, Jasmine, a destroyer. And you'll never be more than that." Jasmine's body jerked forward as if she were about to leap out of her chair. Her words came out like bullets, rapid and sharp. "You think you're fighting for your family, but all you've done is enable Kirk. You think he respects you. You think your kids don't see the humiliation you go through? They'll grow up knowing their mom chose pride over peace, pain over freedom. That's not noble. Rasheeda, that's toxic." The audience erupted again, the host barely able to keep his composure as the women hurled their truths like grenades. Every sentence was another explosion, another ripple of chaos that fans knew would dominate headlines and social feeds for days. And then came the twist nobody saw coming. Jasmine smirked, her eyes narrowing with dangerous intent. "You know what's funny though? While you're sitting here trying to drag me, you don't even realize your own husband is still lying to you. You think he's faithful now. You think he changed. Girl, I could drop receipts right now that would shut this whole place down." The crowd gasped so loudly it drowned out the host's attempts to intervene. Rasheeda's face froze, her eyes widening just slightly before narrowing into daggers. "Don't you dare," she hissed, her voice breaking through the chaos like thunder. Jasmine leaned back, her smirk widening as she reveled in the power shift. "Oh, I dare. Because unlike you, I don't have to live in delusion. I know what's really going on." The room vibrated with anticipation, every fan waiting to see if Jasmine would actually pull out the so-called receipts. The chat exploded with demands. "Drop them. Expose Kirk. We need the tea." Rasheeda's voice rose above the noise, filled with both rage and desperation. "You're lying. You're always lying. That's what you do, you lie, you manipulate, you twist things just to stay relevant." Jasmine leaned in, her voice low and mocking. "If I'm lying, then you have nothing to worry about. But if I'm telling the truth, then maybe you should ask yourself why Kirk's phone still rings after midnight. Maybe you should ask yourself why he was at a hotel 2 weeks ago when he told you he was on business. Maybe you should stop calling me fake and start asking who's really being fake in your house." The shockwave of her words hit Rasheeda like a punch to the gut. Her hands trembled as she clenched them together, trying to keep herself from breaking down on live television. The host finally jumped in, his voice desperate to restore some sense of control. "Ladies, please, let's take a step back," but it was too late. The bomb had been dropped, the seeds of doubt planted, and the audience was already devouring every second. Fans couldn't believe what they were hearing. Some screamed that Jasmine was bluffing, while others insisted she had real evidence. Either way, Rasheeda was cornered, forced to face not only Jasmine's accusations, but also the haunting possibility that her husband was still betraying her. And the look in her eyes told everyone watching that for the first time, she wasn't entirely sure if Jasmine was bluffing. The energy in the room was no longer just heated, it was dangerous. Volatile, ready to explode into something no one could control. And the fans watching knew one thing for certain. They hadn't even scratched the surface of the chaos to come. The crowd watching from home could practically feel their hearts pounding as Jasmine dangled her threat like a ticking time bomb. The energy in the studio was almost unbearable, thick with suspicion, fear, and adrenaline. Rasheeda, for all her fire and fury, suddenly looked as though the ground beneath her feet wasn't as solid as she once believed. Jasmine leaned back, in her chair with a dangerous kind of calm. The type of smug composure that only comes from knowing you're holding something explosive. "See?" she said slowly, her eyes never leaving Rasheeda. "You call me fake, but I deal in truth. And the truth is, Kirk's little secrets didn't end with me. You think you've won because you stayed. No, honey, you're still losing, and you don't even know it." The audience collectively gasped, while the host sat frozen, caught between the need to cut for damage control and the reality that he was hosting the biggest scandal love and hip-hop had seen in years. Rasheeda's nostrils flared, her fists tightening in her lap, her voice trembling with rage. "You are not about to sit here and try to break up my marriage again. You've been obsessed with Kirk since day one. You don't care about truth, Jasmine, you care about attention. That's all you've ever cared about." Jasmine smirked, her nails brushing casually against her thigh, as though she were entirely unbothered. "Oh, but see, Rasheeda, attention doesn't call me at night. Attention doesn't show up at hotels. Attention doesn't text me when you're not looking. That's your man. And if you want me to prove it, I can do it right now." She reached toward her purse, as if to pull out her phone, and the host almost jumped out of his chair. Ladies, please, this isn't the place," but his voice was drowned out by the roar of the live audience in the chat, screaming for Jasmine to expose Kirk, to show the receipts, to deliver the chaos they were dying to see. Rasheeda's chest rose and fell rapidly, the fire in her eyes mixing with something more fragile fear. She slammed her hand against the table, leaning forward with an intensity that silenced the room for a brief moment. "Don't play with me, Jasmine. You want to drag me? Fine, but don't you dare drag my family into this mess again. Don't you dare." Her voice cracked slightly at the word family, and that was all Jasmine needed to pounce. "Oh, now you care about family. Where was that energy when Kirk was sneaking around? You've been pretending for years that everything is fine, and all you've done is teach your kids that love means humiliation. Don't blame me for that, that's on you." The cruelty in her words landed like a dagger. Fans online erupted, some horrified at Jasmine's audacity, while others claimed she was just speaking the truth. Rasheeda refused to face. Memes were already spreading across Twitter. Screenshots of Rasheeda's trembling expression with captions like "Sis shook," and "When the side chick knows more than the wife, knows more than the wife." The producers could sense the boiling point had been reached, and yet they didn't call for a break. This was television history unfolding in real time, and nothing could stop it now. Jasmine's hand hovered near her purse, as though she were about to pull her phone out and expose everything, but she paused. She leaned in close enough for her voice to drop into a whisper. The microphone still picked up. "Do you really want me to embarrass you in front of the whole world, Rasheeda? Because I will." Rasheeda, her voice trembling but fierce, fired back. "You don't have anything. You've been lying from the beginning. If you had proof, you'd have shown it a long time ago." Jasmine tilted her head, her smirk widening into something almost sinister. "Maybe I was saving it for the right moment." The studio felt like it was holding its breath. The fans watching could barely keep still, typing frantically, begging Jasmine to reveal everything. And then, in a shocking twist, she pulled out her phone, unlocked it, and held it up to the camera. "Here," she said simply, her tone flat and cold. The screen was blurred to the audience in the studio, but the fans watching at home could see a new contact name that read Kirk Frost. Messages with late-night timestamps, emojis that told a story words didn't need to. The gasps were deafening. Rasheeda's face went pale, her lips trembling as she tried to process what she was seeing. This is fake," she stammered, her voice losing its steadiness. "This is fake. Jasmine, you made this up." Jasmine chuckled darkly. "No, sweetheart. What's fake is your whole image. What's fake is this fantasy you've been selling for years. But the truth is sitting right here in my hands." Rasheeda shook her head, tears threatening to spill as her fury fought against her heartbreak. "You think you've won because you can pull out some screenshots. That doesn't make you special. Jasmine, that makes you pathetic. You've been hanging on to scraps, waiting for the chance to tear me down, and that's sad." Jasmine leaned back, crossing her legs, clearly reveling in Rasheeda's unraveling. "Maybe it's sad, but it's still the truth. And that's something you've never been able to handle." The tension was unbearable, the host trying in vain to interject as the women glared at each other across the table. One trembling with fury, the other basking in her perceived victory. And just when it seemed like Rasheeda had reached her breaking point, she let out a laugh. It wasn't bitter, it was chilling. She leaned forward, wiping the corner of her eye as she steadied her voice. "You know what's really funny, Jasmine? You act like you're exposing Kirk, but you're not. You're exposing yourself. You're showing everyone that after all this time, you still can't let go. You're still holding on to texts, still chasing the ghost of a man who will never leave me for you. And that's the saddest thing of all." Jasmine's smirk faltered, her composure cracking for the first time. The audience picked up on it instantly, the live chat exploding with messages like, "She got her," and "Rasheeda flipped the script." The tables were turning, and fans could feel it. Jasmine shifted uncomfortably, her phone suddenly looking less like a weapon and more like a desperate plea for relevance. Rasheeda pressed on, her voice gaining strength. "You can show 1,000 texts, but at the end of the day, I'm still here. My family is still here. And you'll always be on the outside looking in. That's the difference between you and me." Jasmine opened her mouth to respond, but the words stuck in her throat. The room was electric, every second dripping with suspense, every fan at home clinging to the edge of their seats. The battle wasn't over, but the tide had shifted, and everyone could sense it. The storm was still raging, but now, Rasheeda wasn't just surviving it, she was starting to fight back. The tension had reached a fever pitch, but Rasheeda's sudden shift, her laughter, her calm confidence in the middle of chaos completely flipped the energy in the room. Jasmine, who had been riding the high of dangling those supposed receipts, now found herself on shaky ground. The smug smile that had carried her through the argument began to fade as Rasheeda leaned in, her voice cutting through the silence with a mix of power and venom. "You see, Jasmine, this is where you always lose. You think you have power because you can wave a phone around, because you can stir up drama. But at the end of the day, you're still chasing me. You're still chasing what I built, what I have, what you'll never get, and you can't stand it." The words sliced through Jasmine like a blade, and the fans watching at home felt the shift immediately. The tide had turned, and Rasheeda wasn't the victim anymore, she was the one holding the upper hand. Jasmine shifted in her seat, her eyes darting between Rasheeda and the host, clearly caught off guard by the ferocity of Rasheeda's response. "Don't flatter yourself," she snapped, her voice laced with frustration. "Nobody's chasing you. Kirk came to me, remember? He wanted me. He's the one who couldn't stay away. You keep blaming me for everything, but maybe you should ask why your husband was so desperate to leave your perfect little home in the first place." The audience gasped again, the chat exploding with comments like, "She's not wrong though," and Jasmine came for the jugular. But Rasheeda didn't flinch this time. She tilted her head, her lips curling into a cold smile. "You want to know why? Because weak men make stupid choices, and you were his stupid choice. You weren't the first mistake, and you won't be the last. That's what you can't understand. He'll never choose you. He'll never stay with you. Because in the end, you're just a chapter in a book I already wrote." The impact of those words hit Jasmine harder than any insult yet. For a moment, her tough exterior cracked, her lips quivering ever so slightly as her eyes darted down at her phone. Fans online replayed the moment in slow motion, pointing out the subtle change in her demeanor, the way her confidence seemed to slip through her fingers. And Rasheeda, sensing her advantage, went in for the kill. "You sit here calling me fake, calling me weak, but let's tell the real story. You spent years trying to be me. You copied my style, my look, even the way I move. You wanted my life so bad, you thought taking my husband would give it to you. But look where it got you. Jasmine, alone, bitter, holding on to text messages like they mean something, when really, they just prove you've been stuck in the same place for years. That's not power, that's pathetic." The audience erupted into chaos, with fans online screaming that Rasheeda had dragged Jasmine into the dirt. Memes flooded Twitter, TikTok edits were already being stitched, and Instagram timelines filled with clips of Rasheeda's fiery takedown. Jasmine, visibly rattled, tried to hold her ground, but her words stumbled. You think you've won because you're sitting here with a ring. Rings don't mean loyalty, Rasheeda. Rings don't mean love. All that ring proves is that you're willing to accept anything, as long as you can keep up appearances." But even as she said it, her voice lacked the sharpness it had before. Rasheeda pounced on the weakness like a predator spotting prey. "You can say whatever you want about my ring, but it's still on my finger. And what do you have? Nothing. No commitment, no family, no legacy, just gossip and bitterness. That's all you'll ever have." The host, sensing both the drama and the danger of letting it spiral further, tried to interject once again. "All right, ladies, maybe we should take a moment," but neither of them was listening. Jasmine suddenly stood up, her chair screeching against the studio floor as she glared down at Rasheeda. "You don't get to belittle me like that," she shouted, her voice trembling with rage. "You don't get to sit here and act like you're better than me when your husband was crawling into my bed behind your back. You think I'm the only one? Please, you should be thanking me for even giving you the truth. I'm not the fake one here, Rasheeda, you are." The studio audience roared, the live chat exploding with messages like, "She's about to swing. And security better be ready." The energy was so charged it felt like anything could happen next. Rasheeda didn't flinch. She rose slowly from her chair, standing eye to eye with Jasmine, her voice steady but laced with venom. "Call me fake all you want, but at least I can walk into a room without people whispering that I'm a homewrecker. At least I can hold my head up, knowing I built something real, something lasting. You'll never have that, Jasmine. You'll always be a footnote in my story." The silence that followed was deafening. Jasmine's face twisted with fury, her hands trembling as she fought the urge to lash out physically. Security moved closer, sensing the danger, but the cameras stayed rolling. The producers knew they were capturing reality TV history, the kind of raw, unscripted meltdown that fans would never forget. And then, in a shocking twist, Jasmine's composure completely cracked. Her voice rose to a scream, her words echoing through the studio. "You act like you're better than me, but you're not. You're miserable, Rasheeda. Everybody knows it. You hate your life, you hate your marriage, and you hate me because I'm the reminder that your man will never be faithful." Tears welled in her eyes, her voice breaking as the fury gave way to something rawer, more vulnerable. The audience gasped again, but this time, it wasn't just because of the drama, it was because they saw Jasmine unravel. Her mask had slipped, and for a moment, she wasn't the confident side chick flaunting receipts. She was a woman scorned, broken, and desperate for validation. Rasheeda, instead of exploding again, simply shook her head. Her voice was calm, almost pitying, as she replied, "No, Jasmine, I don't hate you. I pity you. Because at the end of the day, you're still searching for something you'll never find. And I already have it." Her words cut deeper than any insult could, because they weren't shouted, they were delivered with quiet certainty. The studio was silent except for Jasmine's shaky breathing, her tears threatening to fall as she realized she had lost control of the narrative. Fans watching at home were stunned. The woman who came in swinging with receipts and bravado was now visibly broken, while Rasheeda stood tall, unwavering, reclaiming her power in front of the entire world. The cameras zoomed in, capturing every flicker of emotion, every tear, every ounce of tension still hanging in the air. The host finally stepped forward, his voice trembling as he tried to close the segment. "Ladies, I think we've said enough for today." But fans knew it wasn't over. The feud was far from finished. The fallout from this explosive live confrontation would ripple through their families, their friendships, and their fan bases for weeks to come. And as the credits rolled, the world was left asking the same burning question. Was Jasmine telling the truth about Kirk, or was this just another desperate play for attention? And just like that, viewers, we've witnessed one of the most unforgettable live showdowns in love and hip-hop history. What started as a tense sit-down spiraled into a full-blown verbal war that no one saw coming. Rasheeda calling Jasmine a fake bitch was explosive enough, but Jasmine firing back with late-night texts and cryptic hotel claims. That pushed this drama into territory nobody could have predicted. Fans across the globe are still reeling, torn between calling Jasmine bold for dropping receipts and applauding Rasheeda for standing her ground with unshakable confidence. Social media is ablaze, hashtags are trending, memes are circulating, and the debate over who really won. This battle is heating up by the second. Was Jasmine exposing the truth, or was she simply clinging to the spotlight with desperate theatrics? Was Rasheeda reclaiming her power, or was she covering up cracks in her marriage that fans have speculated about for years? One thing is certain, this moment will live in reality TV history forever. The fallout doesn't just end with the live confrontation. Behind the scenes, family members are divided, friends are picking sides, and Kirk himself is at the center of a storm he can't escape. Will he finally step up and tell the truth, Or will his silence add fuel to the fire? And what about Jasmine? Will she really release more proof? Or was her phone stunt just a bluff to shake Rasheeda's confidence? These unanswered questions are what keep fans glued to their screens, and the tension promises even more drama in the episodes to come. So now it's your turn. What do you think? Did Rasheeda shut Jasmine down for good, or did Jasmine expose cracks that Rasheeda can't ignore? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Whose side are you on? Don't forget to smash that like button, subscribe for even more uncut tea, and hit the bell so you never miss the next explosive update. Because if tonight showed us anything, it's that when it comes to Rasheeda, Jasmine, and Kirk, the drama is only just getting started.